Welcome, everyone, to the Aspiring Entrepreneurs Session 4. Today, we are going to talk about marketing, and we got this lovely, great marketeer, Aditi Basin. And Aditi is going to take you through a lot of ins and outs of marketing. So here we are. Over to you, Aditi. And welcome to the great entrepreneurs as well. We are looking forward to really working with you and taking your business to a great level. Over to you, Aditi.
Thank you, Kumar. I am just trying to share my screen. So as I start, I thought, I've given me a little bit of my own introduction in the first session for everybody, but I thought it's kind of interesting to just start off with knowing and probably understanding the background and what I'm coming from, where I'm coming from. So yes, a bit of a professional journey here. I'm a marketer, Kumar mentioned. I've worked across different geographies across 14 years. I've also got some good experience in working. I am the co-founder for a tech-based startup, and I'm currently working as well. So I work with brands like in the FMCG space, in the paints, in healthcare, across medical devices, and I also run a couple of my own initiatives of so just trying to understand how the multicultural parenting bit works, and that's one of the things that got me interested onto Opportunities Australia as well in terms of seeing. So I worked there. I've got some background in working across food, and I currently work at a healthcare organization, and which is an interesting one. I market masks. So not that there's too much to be marketed about it these days. Everybody is in for using that. So it's kind of an interesting space to be in with the kind of fire that I'm kind of mostly into. So that's a little bit about myself here. From my own perspective, I come from India. I moved from India. I'm a migrant myself. I am an entrepreneur myself. I am someone who's worked extensively with the BBC in terms of being, I'm the arts and culture presenter with them for a couple of years back in India. I have also done a few courses, and I'm also a mental health worker. So couple of things which keeps the excitement on. And today, the few slides that I'm going to be taking you through would be a combination of a few things that might sound a bit theoretical, but I promise that it's not as much of theory as much as when you start putting it into action. And since it's more of a mix of what I have done as well as what I feel that is something that can help as well. This is the second time I am chairing the session for marketing, and I'm trying to, like Kumar says, that this is version 2.0, which is absolutely the advanced version. So we definitely are trying to bring in a lot of other aspects, which I felt would be important as for you all, because I've also struggled a lot, and I currently am also trying to work on one more business idea myself. So I kind of understand the frustration. I understand a lot of things what you would want to know. So I'll try my level best not to confuse you, but definitely try and put things in a more crystal manner. Just stop me where you feel that I'm going a bit too fast, and just from the housekeeping side, that would be absolutely it. So, Kumar, if you can go to the next slide. All right. So, when I was making the slide, I have two young ones who really asked me, they're like, what are you working on? And I said, I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. So both of them had a massive thing saying that, for your work presentations, mostly you've got a lot of slides which have a lot of words. Can you make it absolutely nice and jazzy? And I was like, what does that mean? They said, things which are just going to make more sense. And I said, okay, that's a good one to start with. So when we talk about marketing, it's like it does involve a lot of things, right? But when you try and understand, when you're trying to be an entrepreneur, going into the first few things, what is it that we would want to understand? Though there's an idea, definitely, once you have an idea which is in mind, how do you want to kind of whiteboard it together? So I'm coming from an entrepreneurship background myself. I feel that, when you start off the business, you try and understand. So these are just about 4 or 5 things: understanding the landscape in which we operate in. Marketplace, what is it? So when you're starting your business review, you try and understand and look at what is the category that you're looking at. You would want to understand what are the, as they call it, which is absolutely what are the drivers and barriers. So very technical things, but also looking at what are the economical indicators: consumer behavior, technology, shopper trends. What's happening in that space? What is the marketplace? What does it look like? What else do you look at? You look at what are the consumers. Consumers would be definitely, and today's thing, it's not about consumer being only in the light of just a second. I am going to just switch off my work thing as well. Extremely sorry. I'm just getting a couple of calls. Yeah. So to understand what is the target consumer think, and what is it that they are looking at. So examining their beliefs, examining and understanding, and getting a few insights into what they are looking at. So trying to get a hang of understanding that, trying to get a hang of the channels. Now, channels would be, again, there might be some competitors which are there, which are in play. So what is it, if you're looking at a retail channel, for example, where is it that you kind of, where are your competitors selling? That doesn't give you probably it doesn't give you an absolute pillar to lean on, but it really gives you a starting point to look at what is it that you can also look at, where is it that eventually can go and market. A very, very trivial one, as we might feel, but it's going to be important to understand your competitors and your brand. Breaking down the competition, understanding their performance indicators. What is the brand positioning? What is it that, they're looking at from bringing new to the table? What is the innovation pipeline, for example? What is it that what are their pricing strategies? Distribution, who are they going after? What is their positioning? So a couple of things here to take care of. And this is just, when you're just starting off and just trying to put things into perspective. Because like I said, when I started my travel business back, which was about 10 years back, and I realized that, you could go behind anybody and everybody, but it's really important to start really putting things into perspective in terms of just trying to put all the pillars together. I mean, in no way that I say that, today, after 10 years of being in the business, have I been able to nail it. There are different versions that keep coming out of it. But absolutely taking it, taking the opportunity to keep revising it and advancing on that. Yes, so this slide would be just from where I'm talking about, who are we talking to? Now, when we did this session last time, when after that, when we all got together as a group, I was talking and I said that it's really important to understand who is it that we are talking to, not just in the context of a product. It could be in the context of anything and everything. Today, it's very trivial example, but when I'm trying and preparing my slides for the group here, I definitely would want to understand, are there different segments that all of you belong to? Are there any different variables? It could be, is there any way in which I can segment each of the 15, 18 of us here into any of the segments? Basis of what? It could be basis on your business idea. It could be the basis, could be what stage are you at, probably, of your entrepreneurship journey. What is it that you have in mind? Is it a product specific thing? Is it a service specific marketing plan, business plan that we are looking at? But it's really important to start with that, because once you have the idea, what is the need, what is it that the consumer is looking at, it's important to really have that aspect in place. Kumar, if you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so Thanks to my children, I've realized that less is more. Visual is what really works, and I think this is exactly what I started off with. You go for shopping, you just get into a retail store, and you just try to understand. You wouldn't really go when you know what kind of a shirt that you're looking for, but what are the segments? Segments would be like you have in your mind that you're looking at a red colored shirt of an XL or an L, depending on who's kind of wearing it, right? So it's really important to have that segmentation. This is one of the and while I was doing my MBA back in the day, we really lived by the book of Kotler. Most of us heard Andrew in the session, and when he talked about Kotler, when he spoke about brand, and it's really, I kind of, I went back. It was a nice nostalgic journey that I went back on. And back in the day, we would have, we would at Kotler's this thing, we would be memorizing it. And what is it that we start off with? We start off with just segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Do I do that now? Yes and no. And probably about 14, 15 years of my work experience, I've realized that definitely there are variables, and it also does help as you try and move on to segmenting. And again, just a very trivial one here, but whenever we're starting, whenever you're kind of talking about the business idea, for example, Bobby, I heard from you that you have you're looking at doing a few things on the laughter club side, right? So you would want to segment. You would want to look at who is it that you're looking at, right? It could be elderly. It could be looking at just having tie-ups with the schools. But in your head, you would want to really segment, and you would want to know who is it that you can actually go and speak to? Because till the time you don't know who you're talking to, you don't know what to talk and why, and all of those jing bangs kind of keep talking about. So yeah, Kumar, if you can move to the next slide. Thank you. Now, like I said, it could be building a consumer segmentation, could be based on a few different parameters. It doesn't have to be very technical. It could be as simple as just knowing who you're kind of looking at. But you would definitely want to understand what are the different ways in which you can segment. Like I kind of mentioned, probably I'll keep coming back to the examples, and a few of you who I've kind of heard you speak on this platform last few weeks. You're looking at, let's say, was it Karishma? I think it was Karishma who had actually would have said that, you're looking into a retail launch. So it really is important to understand what is it that the consumer is. Are you kind of targeting a specific geographical area? You, let's say, live in a particular area in New South Wales. What is the demographic that you're looking at? What age is it that what you're looking at? What is the income category that they're looking at? Again, a few of these things are very, very difficult. A few of them would be very difficult for you to ascertain in terms of, when you look at somebody, and they would not be watertight compartments. You really cannot say someone would have a different behavior to a 30 to 35-year-old who'll have a different behavior to a 36 to a 40, right? So they won't be watertight compartments. But as long as you're able to just have those fair bit of ideas in your mind that the entire behavior varies across the different segments, that's a definite good start for us to really start putting things into perspective. Again, consumer behavior. I'll get deeper into it as I come along, but it's going to be an interesting one to understand that human beings in general, and they're most of our consumers are going to be, you're looking at products and services targeted, and the primary customer for you would be someone who's going to be driven by the physiographics and emotional graphics there. Yes. Yeah. So Kumar, you can move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you. So this one basically is, we definitely are looking at targeting, and instead of thinking about who would we want, it's important to understand who wants us. That's another aspect. So once you put segments in place, when you kind of segment the market, put different groups, you try and, it's definitely not easy to put all the segments in place. It's going to be an evolving journey. It's like a live document which keeps getting updated. You might have an idea at this stage, in the initial stages, about a particular thing. And as you kind of put your plan in place, you realize that it goes on a lot of evolution. So it's a very different journey. But it's important to really look at, out of those 10,000 odd segments that exist, how is it that you try and target? What is it that you're looking at a target perspective? Target would be not just on the fact that what is it that you have from your side, from an idea perspective, but what is it that in the future you can also try and develop. So decide who is in the target and who is not in the target. Again, it's a very simple statement, but when you actually get onto this, I think really important to understand. Sorry, there's something happening. Kumara, you play. I just got some notification.
What
Are you
is
good
it?
there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, just in the spotlight, Aditi.
Come on. Okay, keep going, Aditi.
Okay, thank you. There. Okay, so I'm getting all those pop-ups and I'm like, what's happening?
Anyway, we don't want to disrupt you. Keep going.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So, like I said, if very, very funny or a small little example, if you got the world's best soup or a biscuit or just like a pen, for example, go find people who like soup. We don't really need to be working and trying to find those people who would say that we are completely not interested in having a soup. So try, and when you're putting your segments and getting into the targeting, it's important to understand also where the low-hanging fruits are, and that's probably part of the deal as well. In life, there are times, and it's a psychographic thing. I've realized, as part of my consumer behavior learnings that I do, that human beings tend to really try and look for things which are very challenging. So we would tend to really want to go and work with a lot of things where we feel that it's going to be very difficult to try and go to that segment. But really look at those low-hanging fruits. And one of the big mistakes I have done, and I see a lot of marketers also do in the past, is taking a target which is completely huge. And at times you realize that though it's a broad target and you feel that you're going to be greedy as well, right? We're all in that entrepreneurship thing. We try and get into everything and anything, and there's this irrational fear, and I see that happening, and probably I get the example of the real estate market today as well. There is something known as FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. Everybody is on that race. Everybody is in that process where they just want to go ahead and say that we're going to try and get the biggest slice of the pie. But especially when you're starting off, and my experience, like I said, has been not just for entrepreneurs, but even for marketers. When I worked in Philips, when I worked in a couple of other organizations, that irrational fear just tries to take over you when you're putting your strategies in place, but it gets a little tricky as well, because the communication and everything is going to be things that miss out. So, and also it is all about the marketing dollars that you have, right? It's not something that it's going to be unlimited. So we're going to try and make sure that we have those watertight compartments, and especially from a targeting perspective. Focus. Like I said, let's, Kumar, move on to the next one. Yeah. So this is a bit more of what I've spoken about. So this is, a couple of segments. Try and segment and just look at the segment that you're looking at. And it's a good target is not only who decides who is in your target, but who's not. So it's really important, and really being very, very strategic in terms of leaving out some things and saying that you will want to come back to them at a later point in time. Phase A of my launch, I would not want to look at that. This is my pilot, and this is the segment that I would want to operate in. On the right side, you would see that, I've tried to just get a few concentric circles here in terms of understanding, selling target, marketing target, and a program target. What does that mean? And I've just tried to put that up here, just trying to make it a bit more clearer, that, a selling target is something which you would just say that you're just getting to make sure that we're getting some dollars. And it's anybody and everybody who comes to you today. I mean, you're going to be up in the market in some time. Someone wants to come to you and say that, hey, I'm looking at something like this. Is there a value proposition you can do? If you're looking at a consultancy, if you're looking at a product-based thing, a retail thing would be very similar, right? But so you go ahead. It's going to be a tough decision at that stage to say that I'm not going to sell. Go ahead, sell. But when you're putting your marketing targets and when you're putting someone who needs to be in that segment and you would be putting in marketing dollars, it really makes sense to try and have a very focused and a narrow approach. Does it mean that you're going to be saying no to a few customers? That's a choice. That's a choice. I would definitely. I mean, this discussion would be more around me telling about marketing, but that's a choice definitely that we are going to be looking at. Program target. Now, as I go into this, we would realize that there are a few things. When you're running campaigns, when you're doing a social media campaign, when you're doing different types of marketing campaigns, you realize that you're looking at a very specific cohort of individuals for that particular target. So that's what it would be. Kumar, the next slide, please. All right, thank you. Positioning again. Very, very simple. And what is it that you want to be known as? What is it that you want consumers to think about you whenever they have a particular feeling? Do they think about you? Is that the association that they have with you? And that is the space that is the most ownable for the brand or the product that you're looking at. It starts, like I said, it starts with having the right set of consumer who's going to be using the service and then being able to really give them that service. But what is positioning? What is it that you mean by positioning? And that is all about what does it mean to you as a brand? What is it that what kind of a feeling that does that bring about in you and you as a human, as a consumer? And does it really talk to your consumer segment? So yeah, maybe the next slide, Kumar. Yeah. Now, this is again trying to understand, and when you're trying to build a profile, maybe a bit more theoretical, but it does help you. And these are basically questions that you should definitely, you should ask yourself when you're trying to put in who is it that you're selling to. So what is the description, what is it that we are looking at? And again, these are questions, they're definitely in no sense absolutely ideal, but just trying to put them into different buckets that would kind of give you a complete thing around giving you that force to think, just trying to put that up together. What is it? Who is it that you would want to really look at? Who's going to be the customer? Who is it that what are their needs? And that is where it would start with. If you're able to find out what is the kind of need that is there, you would know how to service it as well. I think for me, I've realized that the third point is really interesting because who is it that the consumer's enemy who torments, right? So it's not like a tormenting in a massively negative manner there, but in a manner that what is it that what are the pain points? Understanding the pain points of the consumer. The fourth one is around the insights. What is it that we know about the consumer? I'll go deeper into it. I come from a data background as well. I'm a statistician also. So I really tend to go deeper into this, and I believe that data doesn't lie. So understanding, and you don't need to have like very specific data around around your consumers, but really having insights. It could be just about if you're building up if you have a particular product which you're looking at. So being able to go ahead and reach out and see how they shop. Just a very typical shopping ethnographic study that you look at. So what is it that the consumer thinks now? How does the consumer buy? Where does he buy? What does he want to do, feel, or whisper to their friends? Because that last thing is what brings about the aspect of reaching out and talking and virality. That is something that we feel also will be very helpful for the brand to flourish and to be going to the next level. Yeah. Yes. So maybe Kumar. Yeah. Thank you. Like I said, it's important to understand, and there's a massive process around the consumer insights. What is it that they read? What is it that they see? And how do we? It starts off with anything around. They're going to be syndicated reports if you're working on particular on a particular segment or a particular industry. They're going to be syndicated market research reports that you can start reading up about, getting your hands onto it. A lot of them are available, which are just snapshots of them, which are available online. And then there are a few which you'll actually have to look at paying and getting those in place. But it is important to really get your hands on those facts and data to start with. What is it that you're looking at? What is it that we see? What I mentioned, observe the consumer's reaction in focus groups. What is a focus group? You just get everybody, it doesn't need to be a very, very, a very professional thing. It could be just a group of friends. I was talking to somebody the other day who wanted to start off something, and I'm in New South Wales and Epping. I knew, and they wanted to start off something, and they're like, just a housewife. She's like, I've never done this before. I don't know how to start off. What is it? But she really does massively good Indian cooking. And she's like, what do I start off with? And she said, she's not a marketer. She's not an entrepreneur. She is no one at this stage. But she said, I have just started off in putting up things together, just seeing that, there are a lot of my neighbors who are just going out every day. So there's that massive potential to be able to, reach out. So she said, I just got a couple of friends over to my place, just had a little bit of a kitty party kind of a thing, and just had a few of my dishes because I just wanted to get the feedback in terms of what is it that they do. So that's why you try and put two and two together. And you, like I said, these might just be guiding stones, but the way you position it for yourself and use these ideas is what is important. What we sense now, consumer voice. A lot of you would have heard, I'm sure everybody is on social media. Everybody has a Facebook account, Instagram, maybe LinkedIn for sure, somewhere. But what is the voice of the consumer? Just the other day, there was something which was happening around IKEA, and the massive level of the discussion points that everybody was talking about. So those are the consumer points, voice that you're looking at. Now, the fourth and the fifth points are something that I'll get into deeper as we go into the other slides, but it's all about what the consumers feel. What are their emotional needs? How does a person feel after, let's say, having the juice from a Boost shop, right? So what is that feeling? Does that person feel energized? What are the feelings, the emotional needs, from that perspective? Yes. Yeah, Bobby.
So, Aditi, I had a few questions. I didn't know when to stop you and answer those questions. But
it's good.
In regards with this particular slide, we all are newbies in here, right? We are trying to start off. So from our perspective, how do you think that we can get the insight of the consumers? Like, is there any company that we can approach? Where do we get it?
Yeah. Like I said, when I was giving that example, the first thing to start with definitely is going to be looking at, reports that are available. If there's a particular industry that you have in mind that you can look at, there might not be a lot of industries. If it's a completely new idea, you might not just have a particular industry where the product fits in. And these are very, very, very overarching ideas that I'm saying. But it could be that, there might just be whatever industry that whatever product that you're looking at, what will be the closest match of the industry. So start putting it on a whiteboard. I would say, if I were to start off, is definitely looking at this entire thing with respect to the ideas, the data in terms of where to start with. There are a lot of companies which do analysis, they do some data-based consumer research. I have worked in the past with a few. I can definitely share details. I'm not very sure how friendly on the pocket would they be, very honestly, but I've also come across a few names, a few not-for-profits that help entrepreneurs help out, and those might not be real detailed sample sizes that they look at if you're doing a consumer research, but they look at maybe a statistically significant sample size of 30, 80, depending on what you're looking at. But they definitely do that. Something that you can definitely start off by on your own self is working on, let's say, a focus group discussion. And it doesn't have to be very, very formal. Like I said, I'm part of a lot of groups, and these are very, very informal groups, right? So a couple of groups on Facebook, for example, and people are just saying that, and they just post like an anonymous thing saying that this is the kind of product that I'm looking at, and I'm looking at some women to try it, for example, and I would want, just giving up about $50 vouchers or something like that. So depending on how high or low do you want to go, would it be? But I would definitely say that, start with utilizing your inner circle of friends and family, reach out to the network and be able to do that. I'm sure that there is a lot of potential that can be there. And I'll also share some names. I'll take that down and I'll share names of the organizations that help out with the consumer insights. In the past, I've also done this myself when I was setting up my travel-based thing. Back in India, I used to work a lot with college students in terms of getting that data. I've done that myself as well. So I've gone ahead and done a few things and be able to keep getting a lot of insights from them. So, and on a regular basis. So, those are some cost-effective measures to be able to get that data. I hope it's kind of in line with what you were looking at.
Yes, because I just wanted to look at some numbers and like trying to line up my thoughts of where to proceed. Like if we have to do our own research, then fantastic. Like I can get that one going. But if there is something off the shelf directly.
Yeah. I mean, see, it all depends. Like, because I work for the healthcare, I know that, healthcare works very differently. So each industry has different things, right? You've got clinical trials, etc., that you would want to look at. And, that's where the starting point is. And it's going to be very, very specific. Just another friend who's actually just launched, and it's been a couple of months that he's been in the business. He's actually launched all of these super greens, so he's actually dehydrated them and actually been selling these super greens as a protein pack to a few friends, to consumers. So what I found, and I was helping him out develop his plan as well. And I asked him, I said, where did you start off with? Because I gave him that idea. I said, your product is awesome. I've tried it. It's something which you should definitely reach out to a larger audience through either different channels that you could do. And his idea was, he's like, I just stood outside of Kohl's and I started handing out samples myself and giving them, that thing. And if you're doing it from a regulation standpoint, honestly, Bobby, I wouldn't be sure of how to do it if it's a product that goes straight into the consumer. So you'll actually have to work that out. But those are different ways, right? You put in those samples, you do those small swatches if you have, and that's where you can try and definitely work out something.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. So I think, Kumar, if you can go, I don't know. I can't see Kumar. Are you there? Thank you. Right. So who remembers, again, I'll try and make it a bit more interactive here, but who remembers what is it that Andrew spoke about a brand and what is the history of brand?
I think that was Taufik, the master.
Yes, Taufik's there, but he's on mute as well, so I don't know. Yeah, Taufik, would you like to just shed some light there and just get everybody on to the class of marketing and branding to talk about just getting everybody's thoughts refreshed?
We spoke about the cattle where
Yes.
you used to brand them.
Yes.
Taufik, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Oh, I thought Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, now
Yeah.
we can.
All right. Sorry. Thanks for that. Thank you for actually letting me share that stage. The only thing I'd probably add to what you've said is that my style of branding has been can easily be confused for self promotion. But when you don't have the budget for marketing and branding, self promotion is the way to go. That's what's worked for me in the past 3.5 years. So uh, being shameless really helps when it comes to marketing. Being upfront also many a times helps, because your messaging needs to be very clear. That's really helped me in the past. But while I was actually going through all your presentation, the one question that I did have for you was, when you have a marketing budget, and marketing in its essence is it doesn't really have a lot of indicators of where your money is being utilized, because the biggest challenge that I personally face is reach and engagement that only improves your popularity. It doesn't really convert into sales. So how do you kind of create the balance, or what are your key indicators of knowing that your marketing budget is being well spent?
Right. I think it's a $1 million question, Tawfiq, that you've asked. Probably we'll have to catch up on that one for more. But honestly, on a very serious one, I think what happens is that when you're putting in your marketing plan in place, and this will be covered, I mean, I'll try my level best to cover it as part of the subsequent slides, but there has to be a very thin band, thin line, which you will need to figure out, right? When you're putting in on a granular level what the objective for your campaign is for spending those marketing dollars, it's really imperative that you spell it out. You spell it out in a way that what is it that you're looking forward for, if you're looking at just awareness, or if you're actually looking at the conversion. And it's really something that you will need to do, because every time that you look at putting in those marketing dollars, it's more of a funneled approach, right? And especially when we are starting off with something, it's that typical IDA model, which says that you're creating that awareness, interest, and then an entire thing. So it actually flows down. There is definitely no, I would say, no magic formula to say that it is something that's working or not, but you need to know as an entrepreneur, what is the sweet spot that you are willing to operate on, right? What is it that you're doing? Like like I said, I had that travel business which I run, and we would try our level best to try and put in a lot of dollars behind in terms of creating a lot of visibility for ourselves. We realized it wasn't working. It wasn't working then. And we realized that it did not help us get that, probably in about that 1 month, no sales happened. But eventually, 3 months down the line, we started getting a lot of inquiries for the kind of thing that we used to do. So we used to do a lot of group walks, heritage walks and stuff there. And so it is really important to understand what is it that you're looking at and at what time frame. So try and, I follow, I'm connected with you on Facebook and a couple of other social media channels, and I see that there's good work that you're doing, right? So absolutely, yes, totally, Ray, you're right. Famous advertising saying that you mentioned there, half of all the advertising is wasted. The trick is knowing which halves, right? So to understand that. And you're right, it's very important to understand and just be able to know whether you're just creating that. And in Hindi, I would say, and probably go back to my roots there, that, it's just spent in the air, hawa mein gaya kind of a thing, so understanding it, where is it you're doing. And a lot of the brands, all of the biggies of the world, it's not that their dollars are getting utilized very, very well. They've just been able to go back and create parameters and indicators saying that, it is working. Viewership is something. Can viewership be at any point be quantified? I mean, can you actually come back and say that this particular viewership is going to guarantee you that particular fund? No. So it's all about having those indicators and being able to get that sweet spot. So really, I don't know whether I've answered, but this is going to be.
See, the thing is that I knew that I'm asking a question which doesn't have an answer to, but I kind of wanted to know what your insights are, because that every time someone adds on to that age-old argument of what is the purpose of marketing, it always adds on to the insight, which actually was very interesting to hear from you. Which and because we were actually in the realm of working with all of us being in that state of being in the startup or the scale up stage, with your experience, would you be able to give us some indicators that unless and until we're not able to establish a customer acquisition cost, what sort of red flags should we look at when we know that, okay, our marketing budget is not really going in? Like you have already shared an example with regards to your travel, and you realize retrospectively that that was not probably it, and which probably happens with 5 out of every 7 campaigns that you do in marketing. So in your experience, what sort of key indicators would you look at, or what sort of flags should, as startup entrepreneurs or scale up entrepreneurs, should be looking at to know, okay, we haven't done enough, or we have done too much? Just that range, if you can give us a bit of an idea around that.
Right. I think it's really an interesting one. In my opinion, and it's something that we've realized over, I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs back in India and right here as well. I do realize that it varies across the different industries. It varies across different life stages. But definitely, there is a time you need to be, as entrepreneurs, very conscious of the fact that all the marketing that you're doing, and it's marketing is just like, it's back in the days, they would say that, marketing is very gassy because it eventually doesn't really give you any returns, immediate returns there, right? So it doesn't help you there. But what happens is that once you really put yourself on a time frame, I personally feel that once you have that time frame which is defined for yourself into any campaign, for example, like you're saying, any customer acquisition cost, etc., whatever that is, but it has to be time bound. You can't really put things into perspective saying that just go ahead and keep putting in those dollars behind just looking at it. I personally believe in the idea, and I've realized I've seen some successes there. So I might just take that little bit of a confidence in what I'm going to say now. But I do believe that, when you start small, when you have pilots in place, those are the key success factors for me. A pilot succeeding or failing is something which is going to be interesting for me to understand. How is it that my marketing or my campaign is going to perform at a larger scale? So in the past, like I said, I've worked with a lot of them who just start small, which would again come back to this whole thing saying that, at some point, an entrepreneur who's just starting small has to scale up. So you would need to keep evaluating that. You would need to keep having your regular monitoring sessions, etc., to be able to look at it. Social media definitely gets more complicated because in social media, there is definitely just no direct return that you have unless there is an e-commerce website or anything around that you're doing. But it is something, and this is going to come in a few, probably about the few last slides that I have, and I'm no social media expert, so hands up here if I go wrong. But I think in the age of today, where digital and social media has actually taken a massive change in the way things operate. We've gone beyond everything else and we're just being so evolved that things really are very different. So totally there. So yeah.
Sure. Thanks for that. Without trying to hog this entire conversation, just last bit that I want to kind of clarify that at the level that we're working in terms of a marketing plan or a marketing cheat sheet, if I may call it that way, what would you kind of suggest us in the situation that we are, where if we were to kind of assign in terms of percentage? I mean, I wouldn't of course talk about Coke and Pepsi who are assigning 25 to 15% of their revenues in marketing, but I'm more focusing on people who are still looking at seed funding or probably venture capitalist way, and then it is a hard ask to kind of put money away to throw out when you're not really earning in. So at the first 30 days or the first 90 days, what would our marketing plan look like?
Right. Yeah. So as I go into the slides, I would talk about the way in which a marketing plan, again, it's not something which is cast in stone. It will be something that I'll try and put in and give you a little bit of a step-by-step kind of a thing, depending on what stage you're at, what is the stage that the product is at. Because a lot of times I've realized is that there is a substantial amount of cost that goes into the product development. And depending on what you actually think of marketing as, a lot of times that, the product development cost also gets covered into marketing, because eventually, you'll just kind of have a lot of people saying that is my product and that is one of the 4 Ps that we're looking at, right? So that's the other thing that I would want to be very, very watchful about. Like I said, depends on the segments, depends on the stage that you're at. But what I would at this stage definitely want to do is help out in providing you each, the different stepping stones, which I feel would be very helpful in terms of preparing and reaching that level where that, you would be able to take that conscious call in terms of once you ascertain that data for your own self, for the industry that you're operating in and for the product that you're working on. So I would definitely try and do that. It'll be difficult for me to give you a particular percentage there, but yes, I would, in my personal opinion, I would not suggest looking at a 25% or something like that. We're hardly looking at any kind of funds there, but yeah.
Sure, and I mean, personally, I look forward to that in terms of knowing how we could indicate. So thanks for letting us know that you'll be sharing that. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Okay. Thanks, Kumar. Yes. So again, this is where I'm just trying to put in what are the functional and the emotional benefits. It's important, like I said, what is it that we are looking at? Who is it that we are playing around with? Consumer target. Again, like I said, what is the slice of the population? What is it? Who's absolutely motivated? What is it that we are playing in? What's your brand? What is the category? How emotive is that category? What is it that the category looks at today? If you're looking at a social thing, what is that category doing, right? If you're looking for, I'll go back to my category of masks. What is the category doing? It is what is the objective of that category? What is it that today a person thinks about, and what does he feel? Maybe protection, infection control, safety. Those are the kind of feelings, those are the kind of benefits that you would want to put up together in terms of really, really having your positioning and your branding strategy in place. And the last point, which is an important one, could be about what are the support points. And this is what we would come off as we go on to the next slide. Kumar, if you can. Yeah, a very quick one, and more of a psychology thing than as much here, but I kind of love it, considering that all human beings, there's a framework which has been developed by Maslow, and it's called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm assuming a lot of you would have heard about it, who would have worked around with this and understanding what are the needs, right? So basically this says what are the basic needs, and as you keep going up the pyramid, the needs become more different in the nature, right? So it's not very, very physical needs. And it's really important as you understand the consumer behavior. And it's, again, not just for the category of let's say, shampoos and all of the FMCG products that we operate in. This is a category that, this is a pyramid that I've seen marketers use even now in a massive way, because the needs and the benefits that your particular product are bringing. And how do you ascertain that? Those are all about doing your consumer analysis, spending time with the consumer, understanding. I mean, I can just take probably Opportunities Australia as example there, because I saw Kumar's hand flash up there as well. So yeah, I mean, till the time Kumar doesn't really spend time, having conversations with say, people like us who are migrants who are trying to set up, he would definitely not know what is it that he is able to provide them with. And it's that's what I felt as well, that, when I was talking about my particular product, sorry, the screen's gone off, Kumar. Yeah, so I'll continue.
Kumar, we've lost the presentation.
Yeah. Right, so I'll keep going there. But yes, around the Maslow's hierarchy, I've realized that, it's something which really a lot of marketers use it. Harvard Business Review, I keep a track of just checking on the kind of reports and the researches that keep happening around that. And it's interesting to understand that how, as you go into the products, each of the brands has a different way in which the consumer relates with that brand. So thank you. Awesome. Yeah.
My computer is playing up too.
Join the gang.
Yes.
Now, yeah, so the basic thought, what I wanted to talk about in this one is for marketers that consumers will focus more and will focus first on their basic needs before they start really going on to different things, right? So it's going to be a very simple thing of being able to look at providing those. And what the next few slides I have tried to do is maybe again, it's going to be just more of a run through, but understanding what is it that, what are the kind of needs, what are the kind of different areas that we can really look at putting our products in. Kumar, if you can go to the next slide. Yeah. So just try to put that up together in terms of what are the functional needs, what does a person feel works better for you, what are the words, right? And when you do these consumer analysis, when you spend time in terms of understanding the consumer's behavior, when you spend time in understanding what is it that you're selling, who is it you're selling off to, and spending that, these are these needs that keep coming up, and they help you design and work around what is it that you should be knowing for their perspective. And what happens is that to help brand leaders kickstart their positioning work, and this is where you're trying to put everything, there are different need states. As you keep understanding the consumer, you realize that there are deeper insights, there are different benefits that they're looking at. So just the next few slides would be around that, functional needs. The next slide, Kumar, please. Emotional needs, what is it that a person feels if they're looking at you? If you have something like a healthy biscuits, for example, that you're wanting to launch, right? You're looking at what is it that it's doing. It's got some emotional needs as well as a functional need. And that is why the kind of communication messaging that you design for them would really have to have very different objectives to it as well. And coming back to what Tawfiq also mentioned, right? That is where you understand when you try and prepare your brand funnel and just see how that funnel works around. Yeah, the next one, please. Yeah, I can just skip through these, this one and the next slide. Yeah, awesome. This one is more around understanding the reasons to believe. And when you're putting maybe now we haven't spoken about this, but when you actually put a thing together, what is it that what does advertising do? What is it that, you have marketers, communication plans, etc., that come into place? So this is where you try and understand the reasons to believe. You can have different reasons to believe for each of the categories, but again, 4 different places where I've tried to segment them up as. It's probably like a process, support, detail how the product works differently. What are the points of differentiation, which is there? Product claims. It makes you, let's say, and this is the example that I've just taken for a biscuit grace, usage of an ingredient that makes you feel better. It's got flax seeds, it's got this, that, and all of that from the product's perspective. Third person, you in the field of third person endorsement, and this is one of the things that we've realized in marketing, that a lot of budget goes there as well, is getting endorsements from celebrities, from any kind of key opinion leaders. And now what's happened is that things have started changing. Reasons to believe seem to be more, and there's a shift that's happening, right? From just seeing somebody endorse a particular product on a television, things have started becoming closer. We've started really endorsing things as well. We would want to know what a social media endorser would be looking at. We've got influencers. So if you know an influencer is looking about, talking about something, that helps you go ahead and look at it as well. Behavioral, like I mentioned about clinical studies, etc. So those are the other reasons to believe as well. So come on, the next one, thank you. Just a bit in terms of what is it that, what is it that you're looking at? What is it from a brand objectives, strategic objective statement? So what is it that you're looking at? At this stage, when you're starting off, you're saying that, it's a completely unknown brand. Slowly and steadily, you're just making sure that an unknown brand the consumer becomes indifferent to it. Then they start liking it, loving it, and beloved it. So it's that journey that you would want the consumer to be walking with you on. So absolutely, it's not very similar to what I was mentioning when I was answering Tawfiq's question around the brand funnel and the sales funnel there, but it's about that journey, and that journey is really critical in terms of understanding. You can't really decide the journey till the time you don't know what their path is. So yeah. The next slide, Kumar.
So Aditi, regarding the funnel that you were mentioning about, this is for individuals, right? Like we can't do that for a market segment. The funnel.
That's the thing, right? That is where it's interesting, Bobby, and probably I didn't get deeper into it because of the paucity of time. But a segment is essentially the whole thing about a segment, a target segment, is that you pick up just one person out of that segment as well, and that person is representative of that sample. So it has to be a very, very, and probably it's a bit theoretical, but it is something that has worked with a lot of good campaigns as well. And it's something that really helps you and maybe forces you to ask that question to yourself when you're putting that segment in place. That, it has to be, it can't be very, very broad. It can't be very narrow. It actually just has to be the right size. I've struggled as a statistician. I have struggled to have that right sample size, have that right segment, because it is that fine balance that you need to maintain to make sure that you are able to have the organizational objectives, and this is when I was spending some good years as dollars, and also make sure that you're not really cutting yourself really too broad there, that you lose the essence of that segment. So
yeah, your response was perfect, because it sounds like just like the exit polls that we do in India.
Yeah, true. True.
Thank you.
Awesome. Though in this slide, I've actually just put in just about two things here, but this is actually a very important part for me as a marketer as well. It's very easy. You just look at two things, start with the ideal desired outcome, what you want your consumer to think, see, feel, or to influence. And once you know what you want to do with them, then you can actually say, what is it that you want to tell them? Again, sounds very simple, that you're at A and you want to take them to B, and what do you tell them? But the whole journey is what is putting that marketing plan and putting that business acumen there as well, and making sure that those segments and that behavior that you want the consumer to show after a particular event or a campaign that you're working on is superb. It's absolutely the right one for that segment. I personally have suggested to a lot of people that I've worked with in the past to, again, go ahead and just do a pilot, because you will not get it right the first time. I mean, I wish you all do, honestly, but, they're definitely, there are going to be a lot of loopholes. There are going to be a lot of things that we are looking at. I'll probably come back to, I think it was Linda's thing around her business idea around the marriages and, the whole thing that she does. So, a lot of things when she's getting people, oops, I don't know what I've done. Sorry, give me a second. I've just gone ahead and done something with my screen. Everything's gone blank. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there are different responses there. So I'll, probably come back to the next slide. Go off on that. Kumar, the next one. Again, we live in the world of brands. So we've actually gone ahead and what are the different brands? Everybody has an iPhone. Everybody wants to own an iPhone. Everybody knows what the iPhone is. That's the brand. That's the technology. Intel, Starbucks, Rolex. We've got everything which is all about brands. You think about the word IKEA, and the first thing that comes to your mind is do it yourself, right? That's the kind of image, that's the kind of positioning that these brands have been able to look at. Everything and anything that they have in their store is speaking that brand promise. And that's the brand promise that you want to also think about when you go ahead and talk to talk about putting an offering together for your consumer. Move on to the next one, Kumar. Thanks. really busy slide, but I'm absolutely not apologetic about it, honestly, because this is what we have, right? This is what marketing is. Putting a marketing plan together looks like. There will be a lot of input that will need to go into it. But once you put everything in place, trust me, the kind of satisfaction that you'll have about reading it together, it's going to be nice. But again, starting off with what we did start off, getting an overall picture of the landscape that you're operating in. What's the market? What are the kind of micro, macro views? What are the economic indicators, etc.? Consumer, know your consumer, because that's going to be a fairly large chunk of what is going to come through. Channels. Once you know your consumer, you want to really go ahead and know how they're looking at, where is it that they're going? Competitors, brand, funnel. The second stage after that would be trying to understand and put everything together. Again, this one is I've realized it takes a lot of time in terms of putting the drivers and the inhibitors, especially once you have the segment and the target segment, which is there. So the user persona, and you would try to understand what are the deal breakers, what are the pain points, what are the risks, what are the opportunities. The third thing would be just trying to put in together what are the core strengths, trying to put whole I would say the brand piece to it. What is it that the brand's promise is? What is it that your consumer connects to most with the brand? What is your offering? What is the value proposition? And putting all of those strategic thing boxes. Fourth is again, just a bit more of just trying to get onto that fine line between marketing plan and business, because this is what is the vision, mission, goals thing, and what is it that you feel from the business perspective. And the fifth one is putting everything together more than a marketing plan. I would say that's a business plan together, in terms of putting up what's the kind of forecast, what is the analysis, issues, strategies, and this probably fits in more with the business side of it. So I would also at the end of it try and share, maybe as a read up document for everybody, would be what are the critical things that we should be also, a copy of this, and how to prepare this one. So I do have on a Word document on an Excel as well, and that's more of a checklist that you can actually keep checking as you go past the different things in the journey. Yeah, Kumar, if you can move to the next one. Yeah, this is just about execution plans. Again, in no way is it very, very appropriate for me to talk about it, because I'm absolutely not on the journey as you all are. But these are the kind of things that marketers generally use. We have an advertising plan, which looks like more of a creative advertising, all the ideas, you engage your media agency that tells you what is it that you should look at. Today, the media plan actually looks at more into the social media. So that's where the social media part is on the second thing. I'll go deeper, like I said, after I've just spoken about everything here, I'll go deeper into social media. Events and sampling. So that gives you probably a platform to go ahead and understand your consumer as well. What is it that they're responding to? How is it that they're looking at the sampling? Creative brief, again, that's just about the advertising side. Merchandising and in-store sampling. I'm a firm believer that it is something, there's no better way to know what your consumer thinks than to go and actually share your final product with them and get them on the journey. So I generally, and I've done that in the past, and I've realized it's something that works. Yeah, Kumar, maybe the next one. Okay. So the entire thing that I spoke about was given the premise, more of a theoretical thing around what we are looking at from a perspective of the 4 Ps of marketing, product, price, place, and promotion. Things have been changing ever since. We are in a very, very dynamic world. Now there's 7 Ps, 12 Ps, 14 Ps. I don't know how many Ps I have also heard about. But what has not changed is that things are pretty much in a very, very similar spectrum. So focusing on the solution rather than the product. Many organizations are now moving from their business model of a product-oriented approach to a nice, complete, holistic solution providing. Customers don't really care as much about the product, right? So what they care about is what and who is solving their problems and what is it that gives them joy. And as long as you're able to do that, I believe that works, right? Because that's where you would want to be on the journey with the consumer. The second is place to access. Now, again, there is a massive change which is happening. Traditionally, place would be very simple as what are the channels? How do you go ahead and sell, right? Do you go to the retail? Do you go to a particular shopkeeper if there's smaller ones there? But now everybody is moving from that world of a retail world is moving. So access has become a massive thing. Everybody has access. You've got social media, which is completely there. There's e-commerce, and everybody has everything on their fingertips. So that's the change. The dynamics of the game change completely. Focusing on the price. No more. We are not just looking at the price. It's about the value. You go ahead and you put in something together for a particular, you just put a value to the thing. You don't really put a price. Now, customers do have concerns about price, but their concerns are not about what is it that they're paying or what is it that they're getting, right? Their thing is more around the value. What is the value that you create? What is the value proposition that you're able to satisfy there? Promotion to education. Now, promotion initially you would have all these things around, having a creative marketing plan, creative advertising plan, everything on the TV, everything on the magazines, a very, very traditional approach. And what is happening today is that businesses know that we need to act more as entrepreneurs. Now, that's a very interesting term that I realized and I read about at an HBR review also, which said that everybody wants to really know about new things, but they don't want to be given that on a platter, right? So there is a massive increase which is happening that you would see in the role of an influencer on social media. You'd see a lot of key opinion leaders who are talking about it, and that's the role. You want to have a category that you want to talk about. You want to talk about super greens. You don't go ahead and just say, hey, I have a super green product here, and that's about it. You actually start planting it. You start really having a lot of educational material around it. You really have maybe, work on a research which says that having a particular thing in your diet really helps you with, moving around with this particular ailment. And that's where you try and drive that conversation and make sure that education is overtaking the promotional side. Yeah. So there's a massive change happening. Thank you. Consumers and customers all of them are getting empowered. What is it that they're doing? They've got digital, they've got everything on their fingertips. They go ahead and there's just like everything happening everywhere. Does it bring in chaos? It does, definitely, because everybody feels empowered. The businesses feel that there's so much, but that also brings in a lot of opportunity for us as entrepreneurs to be able to go and get the slice of the pie. And it's something that businesses are really able to use well. I was reading a research which said that I think about mobiles accounted for probably about 50% of the, was it wrong? So I'll leave that one. But yes, I think the kind of shopping, the dynamics happening, what is the kind of online shopping rates are increasing, right? And it happens probably at night. So would that be a better time for you to be engaging with the online customer? So lots happening in that space. Next slide, Kumar. Okay. Digital is moving. I think, again, there's not much that I can say, which is something that you all haven't heard about in this thing about the digital piece. There's massive changes happening. Everything is there. You would want to know about a particular product on social media. You want to learn about a new thing, which is on social media education, to be able to supplying that up here as well. So digital is completely changing. Yeah, next slide, Kumar. So let's get social. So just a quick show of hands on how many of us have social media accounts, which we are very, very, very addicted to. Both of them here for me. Yeah. All right. So it's like I said, it's completely changing the way we are operating in the way, in a lot of things. And it is important to understand that the consumers are actually being able to work more around on all the social media platforms. I had in one of my previous organizations that I worked with, and we were into we used to manufacture food, bread products. And the organization was more of a B2B organization. They did not want to really look at social media. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, did they come across a new product idea which said that we're going to look at multi-grain seeded breads. And for that to happen and for that to get acceptability in the market, what was needed was just be able to go back. And all of a sudden, we were able to have a social media account, and we didn't really need to do much there for getting traction on that page. It just was absolutely a viral thing that went, because health is something that really everybody connects on. So it's an interesting one. Maybe the next slide, Kumar. All right. So probably it's not answering, Tawfiq, your question completely, but the next few slides, I've tried to just put in a few things together, which will be important to think about when you're actually putting your when you're putting your plan in place. When you start off, right? What is it that you want from social media? Social media, everybody wants to have that, right? But just a few key things that you should be looking at is about increasing awareness. So when you're starting off, you would want to just look at an increased awareness. People know about you to create that authenticity. Even when you go ahead and talk to a potential investor, they'll be like, do you have a social media account? Do you have your Facebook page? Do you have a LinkedIn page? Do you have this? So that's the awareness. And you would focus on content that goes there, which talks about your brand. And those are the values that are really getting converted there. Generating leads and sales. So again, not very sure on whether you all have a business page, social media page for yourselves, but there'll be different needs out of the page as well. Some of the people I have also, some of the entrepreneurs I've heard about, they would definitely have this there, they'll say, reach out to us. And this is a lead generating thing, whether online or in store, we would definitely want to get more sales here. Growing the brand audience. Now, growing the brand's audience would essentially get, what are they, right? Are you looking at more followers? Are we looking at more likes? Are we looking at a virality happening? How does that work? How would you want to use that account of yours? Boosting the community engagement. Now, this is another piece which I've realized is very important. What would that mean? Again, maybe I'm just going a bit fast because of the paucity of time. Stop me at any point anybody wants to. But in community engagement is everybody uses the social media because that's that inherent need to be connected, to be recognized amongst the cohort of your friends and family, and being able to have that community engagement. So there is, and I'll just give an example. There is a movie which has just gotten released back in India, which has gotten a massive, massive engagement from the perspective of just being able to do this on social media. Good, bad, ugly, no idea, but it's gotten them what they wanted. It's gotten them a lot of virality. And that's the power of social media. It really snowballs out onto a different level. Driving traffic to your site. Now, it could be that, you're looking at your website and you want visitors on your website. This definitely helps you, right? You can have a campaign which you can launch, which would get somebody actually uses social media, sees your account and says, what is it? So you say, reach out on my website, or more details on the website, etc., etc. So any combination, it could be, and it's not just one, right? It's not just one. It's not that you go and get a Facebook account just to make sure that you're able to just get a brand awareness. It's a combination. And it's like a combination, which is a fair game. I would much rather say that, if I'm putting my campaign together, I would want to have a combination. I would want to really say that I'm looking at a brand awareness for my new website, my new Facebook page, which helps me generate sales for this particular thing. Again, this I wouldn't really go too much into the details here because we've covered this as part of knowing your customer and your consumer there. So understanding the demographics. The only one thing that I would want to mention here is that there are different platforms. There is Facebook, there's YouTube, there's Instagram, there is TikTok. There are a few different ones. Each of these platforms, and I don't need to really mention that up here, but there are different platforms which would really be, targeting a particular demographic. So it could be an interesting one when you know who you're looking at. If you know your target consumer, you can actually go back and look at which of those would you want to work around with. Yeah. The next one, Kumar. Yeah. So this one is where, like I said, different platforms have different targets and they also have different KPIs. KPIs are key performance indicators. Now, Facebook, what is it that you look at when you're on Facebook? Reaches. What is the kind of likes? How many people are sharing? How many people are commenting? Twitter, again, it's more around getting that content. LinkedIn is more from a professional network perspective. And at that, I would also, just take a minute here to pause and say that, we really request each one of you to go and like, and I think most of us are connected, Kumar, if I'm right, on the Opportunities Australia page. Yeah. But really, really try and get the power of everybody here to be able to share all the content and keep liking it as well so that we are able to maintain that virality as well. Yeah. Next slide, Kumar. Yeah. So this is, again, a little here, create and curate the kind of content. It's engaging. I know Tawfiq has a very good Facebook page, which I'm connected with him on. So there is a lot of content that he keeps on creating as well. Right, Tawfiq, would you want to... Are you there? Yeah, you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks. And thank you for quoting me there. I mean, as much as it is kind of giving a good ego massage to me, but it's also kind of putting me in the spot. So it's a bit of a mixed feeling there. But I don't know if I can claim that my Facebook page does as well as I expected to. And mainly because for a very long time, I understood the difference between how Facebook treats its pages and profile. So I did know, I mean, this is one thing, of course, I learned retrospectively that profile has a very different way of working as compared to a page. Page is a business. So in a way, if I am running the shop called Facebook and someone's running a shop inside the shop, of my shop, I would want them to pay me. But on the other side, when it comes to profile, I understand that it's just people visiting and kind of making use, because people are the product there. So I'm not going to take money from people who are already my product.
Yeah.
So I knew that Facebook wants to exploit profiles with personal data. So I had to basically make that tough choice of making sure that let's focus on profile, because you don't have any marketing budget. You're just starting off in the media and in the arts industry. So let's go on that.
Sure.
The one thing that I focused on the content was mainly is what I'm delivering to my audience rather than what I want to say. And of course, 90% of my content is basically what I think my followers will like as compared to what I want to say. But yes, of course, I do have to make sure that I am also being honest with what my content is. So it has to align with my politics. It has to align with my messaging. It has to align with my values.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it just for it, because what happens is eventually the algorithm will pick up that you're actually putting up something just for the heck of becoming viral, and it will red mark you eventually. So one post with 1,000 likes would essentially mean that then your next 10 subsequent posts are really not going above 10. And that is something which I've seen happening in many other accounts. So that's just my bit of how I handle my personal. And again, as you rightly mentioned, every platform has a different demographic. And Kumar was the one who actually came around and said, well, mate, you are not on LinkedIn. I was like, I don't have any work on LinkedIn, the kind of thing. But then discussing with him made me realize that I have been missing out on a very huge demographic on LinkedIn for a very long time.
Absolutely.
And only now started. But then again, I'm exhausted. I mean, I can only do so much on Facebook and Instagram. So unless I do kind of have something like a HubSpot or something, I'm still struggling for resources.
which is something that we all do, right? When we're entrepreneurs, you feel that you would want to have like 10 hands and 10 legs and try and just do everything, because you are the brand, you are the product, you are everything. You're just everything all rolled up into one. So thanks there. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to jump in there. I'm reading this slide, and I think it's really interesting because I love psychology and you know, how we can get ahead and target consumers, I guess. With the 30%, I just can't read the rest of it. Is it text-based images or text-based audio?
Yes, it's text-based images.
Okay, and what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so it's basically just having your images which will have text, right? You see a lot of images which are yellow, or probably you've got that backdrop thing which has got, or probably it'll have an image on top of which you'll have some text there. So that's the kind. But you know, I'll be very honest. Don't really look at this data and don't go by it, because there are dozens and gazillions of the organizations publishing this data. My idea of representing it here was just to give an idea that, you know, there are a lot of these options. And like Tawfiq mentioned, and I've also realized, and I'm sure all of you have, is that there is a different response that each of those content, of the different types of content has. So probably I've realized that videos, and there are a lot of live conversations that people strike on. So that's really taking up, especially on Instagram, that's really taking up. And videos and images is something which really, you know, is high up there. And the rest of it is probably, and it's more of an evolving thing as well, if you understand that, right? It's more of an evolution. I wouldn't be any expert when I say this, but I can just talk about it from my experience and what I've kind of come across. But yeah, there are different reports which would claim differently, and take it with a pinch of salt, honestly. I wouldn't say that believe on any of them completely.
It freaked me out because I'm like, there's no audio option here at all. And that's what I work a lot in. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just missing completely off the board. But I think a combination of everything, my producer always says, video is the thing of the future. So even if you're doing a podcast or an audio piece, to record yourself doing that as well. That entices people. So I understand. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, I think what this slides, and my idea of putting the slide here was essentially to make sure that, you know, you'll probably have a good idea of what you would want to publish based on your goals, your audience, the brand identity, like Tawfiq mentioned, for example, right? What are the values that he wants to really portray? Because that really speaks all about what his organization and he himself as a brand is. You also need to probably feel a lot more confident in these networks, you know, when you're putting things there, so that your identity is something that you're there talking about it. I'm a massive user of LinkedIn myself, and I realized that I'm probably, I feel probably that emotional word that I would feel if I use LinkedIn is more of that safe space. I really consider that to be a safe space. Nobody really judges you, but that's just like a personal opinion here, right? It's all about the strategy that you would want to put in together. There could be different options, you know, and you will again, I'm sorry.
Sundar.
Okay, Kumar, you can go to the next one. Yeah, again, this is one of the other things which talks about when is it that you post. Make your social presence as timely as possible, which means that, you know, you go ahead and really put your strategy, put up your posts and everything there. But also there are different points in time that people are engaging on different platforms. Timeliness is absolutely important. You know, if you put in, let's say there was a post which is going around, or there was this whole thing around the International Women's Day, and you go ahead and you post something which is completely on probably the evening or probably the night, you know, there aren't many posts, there aren't many likes that you will get, right? On the contrary, I've seen that people would do it at a very appropriate time. So there are different metrics around it. So there is highest engagement, which is there during the time, during about 9 to about 12. That's when most of the people are in their offices. They're trying to really, you know, taking a morning tea break or whatever there. But that's where they would consider to be on the social media too. But the question would remain.
I have heard this thing is, when they wake up in the morning, people love the technology.
They're all in the rush, depends on the day.
Yeah, when you wake up, so I wake up 5 or 6 o'clock, right? So I would have probably half an hour to an hour before I go for my morning walk or exercise thing. That's the time. And then those people who are traveling from their homes to their offices, that's the slot. So that would be between 8 to 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So anytime from 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock, that's your golden time.
That's the golden time. So go for it. Go for it.
And later in the afternoon as well, when you are traveling from, work to home, roughly.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's very, very interesting that each of the platforms that you operate on will have a very different behavior, just like the consumers that you work with, just like, the retail platforms that we would be shopping off from also. Each of these platforms have a different time. You can't really expect that the customers would be running to your clock, right? They would not be operating on a very similar one. But and like Tawfiq mentioned, right, it's just like a single person who's doing everything. So you need to start looking at measures. There are different platforms. He did mention about HubSpot. They're different. There are many others that you can actually look at, which are going to help you plan your resources accordingly. There are resources. I know Michelle also was telling me about a beautiful thing, because I complimented her, Michelle, the social media that Michelle runs. I love reading the posts that she has. So it's like, it's about just making sure that it's very appropriate. It connects with you. It's timely. So Michelle, I know I met you last time and we mentioned about that. So absolutely happy for you to share your thoughts here about LinkedIn and about your experience on LinkedIn.
For me and my particular business, LinkedIn is the most appropriate social media.
Yeah.
So I'm not on Facebook at all with my business. I've just started dipping my toe in the water with Instagram under my kind of, I guess, professional brand. But LinkedIn and talking about who's your audience, who you're speaking to. My audience is all on LinkedIn because my business is B2B. It's not B2C. If you're B2C, I'd say that was where you would want to make your presence felt on Instagram, on TikTok, etc. So I think what's really important is answering those questions that Aditi put in first, because otherwise you're kind of just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks. You've really got to answer the question first about who's your customer, where's your customer, how are you talking to them, what segments are you talking to, before you start planning any kind of social media, regardless of the platform. It's interesting seeing the, I'm finally, after 10 years in business, actually working with a marketing person, finally. And she keeps telling me I have to do video, and I've spent about 9 months putting it off. So I will do one soon, and I know that's where the eyeballs all go.
Yes. I'm on a kind of a bit of a new journey with marketing myself, and it's been interesting talking to people like Aditi and other people in my network who have been, doing this for a much longer time and professionally. Just those little tips and tricks, like, if you are doing video, try put captions on them, because a lot of people are watching videos with no sound on. So you're losing the opportunity to talk to a customer if you're just recording video with no captions, and just little things like that. I'm actually designing a few courses myself at the moment, and so slightly different, but one of the people I was talking to said, make sure you record an audio file as well as a video file, because a lot of the time people are listening to these kind of short course modules in the car, or, when they're watching when they're walking the dog or something like that. And so I can't remember who made that point earlier this evening, but you have to be delivering your content and your message the way your customer wants to hear it, not the way you would like to deliver it. And that's so important. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the matter. Thank you there. And I know I just put you down the bus there in front. It was really nice to hear that, honestly, because a lot of times that, when you start off, you do feel that it's really important that you get everything else in place, just about not the marketing. And for Michelle, the thing is that it's more of that B2B piece that you're working on. So it's really important, I believe, that now it's nothing is just about marketing, right? It's just about being able to reach out to the customer and give them what they want and how they want it. It's around that whole solution. It's about packaging it for them at the right price point. And they're so demanding. I mean, I'm super demanding when I think about it, how my the guy who would kind of deliver the Uber, I would really have my specifications and how I'm going to have my sushi tonight, and everything is going to be very nicely packaged. And that is what marketing would be able to do, right? Giving you the right product at the right price, exactly where you want and when you want. So yes, thank you. I'll probably move on to the next slide. Thanks, Kumar. Yes, maybe not a complete answer to your question there, Tawfiq, but just about, while we wrap up, it's about monitoring and making sure where those precious marketing dollars are going, monitoring and assessing what's working, what's not, and being able to do it very timely. So, just seeing what is it that should be something that you're looking at. Should you look at just increasing the number of fans and followers on your Facebook page? Would it be just increasing the traffic? What does that traffic do eventually? Does it really talk to that brand campaign goal, the objective that you had? There are different objectives that you can think about, but it's really important for you to be able to make sure that you take that call and put everything together for yourself. So absolutely monitoring and doing it on a very regular basis, especially when we have very, very precious dollars to spend. And since we are the only ones doing it, because it can be very, very, at times I've realized that it can be very exhausting and very, I really don't know how to say that, but it is something which is more of a distraction as well. Because when you're on social media, you feel that you are able to do everything because everything is super virtual. You feel that you can get to this customer also. In your head, you're able to make like lots and lots of thoughts. But it's important for you to come back and just say that, everything has to be timely, everything has to be done, and you have to keep monitoring it. So I think that's the key. Without analyzing continuously that analysis, you will never know when do you need to move on from that particular campaign onto the other one as well. So, and I'll be honest, social media is a massive thing, which is all about trials. It's about hit and miss. There's no particular thing that you can say, which is a foolproof thing here. It might work, it might not. Go ahead, completely give it a shot. I'm just going ahead. Like, I know what you were mentioning about the podcast, right? What works? Sometimes a podcast works. What industry you're in would really be depending. The next slide, Kumar. All right. So this is an interesting one. I would go back and just refer to what Tawfiq said, that, resource strapped, but it's social media is not the only thing that you're doing. So this one slide is something that I really, really love and I've actually gotten this one laminated for myself, and I have a copy of it here in my house, because whenever I feel that, I'm just doing everything and I'm just going wrong and everything, I just go back and I look at this slide and I'm like, marketers, there is just everything and anything that needs to be done, right? From making sure that you're getting your positioning, you're making sure that the product's right, you're able to put that strategic brand plan in place. You're also getting the business results, because that is where the moolah comes in from. Your brand is the organizational culture. your brand is something that's talking. Google is supposed to be really, really very good with the culture, right? Because that's the brand. That is what they want the employees to talk about. That's the value of the brand that they want everybody to talk about. Consumer experience. What is it that the consumer is experiencing? How you have all the way in which you can go and influence that purchase moment. If there's anything that if there's a physical purchase in a retail shop that's happening, it's really important to be able to capture that, because there is a lot of behavior which is involved there. Product innovation, like I mentioned in the initial few slides, that it's going to be a very, very iterative journey. There has to be a complete pipeline. Even if we are starting with a particular product and working on a pilot, it definitely needs to be iterative, because there is, even if it's like, and I'll go back to the masks that I sell, even if it's like a 30-cent or a 40-cent mask, everybody expects that there's a better variant of a mask also. There could be a one with 3 layers or 4 layers or whatever. So there has to be an innovation pipeline which is going to be looked at. The brand story, we have to be talking about it anytime, every time, all the time, honestly. So go ahead, go for the kill. I would really, take a pause here. I know I've been just going on and on for a while, but honestly, there have been so much that I thought would be things that I would want to talk about. Might have gone a bit hastily on a couple of points. Do reach out if you think there's anything that I could help out with. And yes, I have a last slide also, Kumar. I would want to show that too. Thanks for listening from the branding perspective. That's me. You can reach me on my LinkedIn, and all the very best to everyone for the future endeavors. Happy to take questions. Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Oh, this is not a question, it's a statement. This was really amazing, by the way. It was really informative and I enjoyed that. I think the biggest takeaway that I got, because I am a severe imposter syndrome victim where, I get stuck in doing things because I'm afraid and I want it to be perfect. And there is no such thing as perfect. So by you saying you're never going to find out unless you pilot a program or pilot your product and then see how it goes, like guaranteed first time is not perfect. So currently I'm piloting a program. And every week I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just horrendous. Should I stop now? Should I run away and ghost everybody? But yeah, I'm just like, I'll just get to the end. And if it's good, fantastic, I'll work on it. If it's bad, then I'll scrap it and start again. So thank you. I think we needed to hear that. Well, I did.
No, but I would just correct you here on a particular thing. I would say either ways, you got like awesome learning, right? Which is, you go ahead, and whatever is there, it's the iterative, it's the plan B that you're going to be looking at. It's the other version that you're going to be looking at. And definitely, I would not say that it's not going to be perfect. I'm very sure, but don't really have that in your mind. And this is probably, I'm wearing my mental, the hat, which is the other one. I have felt like giving up on a lot of moments. I know of a lot of loved ones who would know how I have actually gone through I've gone through a lot of mental stress, and I was very happy that Monica was able to start this for us, and she was able to give that, because when you're getting into this journey, I think there are times that you really start questioning yourself. Easy wins will be probably there as well, but what makes it more interesting is that you don't give up. And probably it's something that you're doing so good. So hats off, and absolutely all the very best to you.
Thank you.
Can I just add something on the imposter syndrome thing, just because I think we all feel it. And I read this amazing quote this morning on Instagram. It popped up on, I don't know whether you know Jamila Jamil, and it popped up on her Instagram stories this morning, and she was saying, my answer whenever I'm asked about imposter syndrome is to admit that I am an imposter, and I treat it like crashing a wedding. You're in now, have as much fun as possible, grab all the cake you can before someone throws you out, lean in and make it a party. So I'm just going to channel that every single time I feel like I'm getting imposter syndrome. So
that's great.
I give it to you.
I love it.
Thank you. That was so good.
Hi, Adi. It's Emil here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm in a position right now where we're doing like services online in regards to wellness and well-being programs. And we have the current application is very basic. We're just in a decision making where how much can we spend actually in the marketing, which I believe it's the backbone of any businesses, and on the development on new features in the app. Or I would love to have a customer service where they can use a lot of features, but in the same time, I need to do a lot of marketing. So do you have any tricks or a way I can make a decision easily, which is, I know it's never straightforward, but is there a way you can help me in a way making that decision easily, or any tips?
So I would, again, you've answered that. From my side, honestly, it's all about making sure that you're in a comfortable position. I would say, I would go back into that one saying that definitely if it's a product and I don't have a lot of experience in it, but I'm happy to just get you connected to a few friends who have worked on getting product apps there as well. What they have actually said is that your product is the key, right? If it is the good one, there's going to be definitely a marketing that will be needed, but it's not going to be a massive one as a percentage of the product development costs is what I feel. And depends, again, going back to the basics of who is it that you're marketing off to and what is the cost of acquisition for that, right? The sooner you are able to understand that, the sooner you're able to understand what are the dynamics that you're playing across on, I think you'll be able to get those points in place for yourself. And like I said, as long as you are very confident about it, comfortable position to be in, definitely, and I'll get you connected. I'll definitely take that. I'll share the details of my friend there. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'll send you a message in LinkedIn soon, but thanks a lot.